Now the next thing we're going to look at on our 5 fingers of ultralight flying are PPGs. Now if you're new to the area of ultralight flying, you're going to say to yourself, well, that's not an airplane. Well, that may or may not be the case, as you're going to see later in the segment, but they are ultralights. PPGs, or powered paragliders is what it stands for, are a fairly recent addition to the whole world of ultralight flying. It's a very personal and portable way to get into the air, as basically all they are is a canopy above and a power pack that fits on your back. They can be broken down and put into the trunk of a car sometimes, or a small van or pickup truck. My first exposure to powered paragliders was in Florida at Sun and Fun some years ago, and at that time I wasn't too impressed with it because it seemed to me most of the time the flights were aborted because they couldn't get in the air and guys were running and slipping and falling, and it was just not very elegant. But in retrospect, I see that that was before all the refinements were made in both the equipment and training. And in the ensuing years, I've watched it grow, and I think it's very valid now as a way to get in the air. A real fun part of the sport and something that you should consider. So I went down to Fort Smith and took a look at some flyers down there to fly in, and I think you'll be suitably impressed. Just when you think you know what an airplane is, they change things on you. The dictionary says an airplane is a powered flying vehicle with fixed wings and a weight greater than that of the air it displaces. Well, that's all fine and good until you consider powered paragliders. Is that a fixed wing? America's Federal Air Regulation 103 says, to be considered an ultralight vehicle, it must weigh less than 254 pounds, be limited to 5 gallons of fuel, have a maximum speed of not more than 55 knots, and have a power-off stall speed of no more than 24 knots. So basically, an ultralight can feature any variety of configurations as long as it fits these weight, fuel, and speed criteria. So that means the wing can be inflatable, like the powered paragliders you see here. Although I had seen them before, I wanted to learn more about the design and technology behind powered paragliders and the guys who fly them. The first flyer I talked to is Jeff Goyne. Jeff is a professional aviator. He is one of those guys who had a pilot's license before he had a driver's license. Right now he flies Boeing 737s, but his love of flying has taken him airborne in gliders, helicopters, fixed-wing ultralights, and now powered paragliders. He is also a published writer specializing in powered paragliders and maintains an excellent website.
A friend of mine called me up. This was in 1999. Hey Jeff, you want to go in with me on a powered paraglider? A what? A powered paraglider. Gave me a website, greenmountain.com. No longer exists, but I went there and I thought, no, that's got to be like the guy in Los Angeles who went up in the balloons up to 18,000 feet or something like that and wound up, I don't know, going 20 miles away. I'm figuring there's no control. What, powered paraglider? Is that like, do you control it? Can you go where you want? And I started looking into it. And I go nuts over this thing. My imagination goes wild thinking about flying just my body in this little seat out over the prairie preserve near my house. There's no way. And I thought, it's gotta be dangerous or something. So I started calling around. I got a buddy of mine who showed me the thing, and he showed me some videos, and I thought, no, this isn't dangerous. I mean, it's no worse than any of the other craziness that I engage in. And I started looking for training. I called my friend back, and I said, okay, I'm interested. I'm really interested. When do you want to start? And he said, well, I was thinking maybe in the summertime. Like, summertime? I'm thinking next week. So sure enough, within 1 week, I was on a plane out to California for training. And I got free flight training, got a rating, because there was, at the time, there was no organization that did any certified training for motors. Well, I want to know, there's a group of people that have looked at this training and said, hey, this is decent training. So I got a P2 rating from the Hang Glider Association. And then I went to Florida and got training in the motor. And it was amazing. It is by far the most fun I've ever had in the air. Even over the helicopter. The helicopter is fun, but you have to have a hangar for it. You've got to fly it somewhere else. With this, I can take the paramotor almost anywhere. On my way here, I saw a place that looked kind of cool, pulled off to the side, off I went. Just went cruising around Carlisle, Arkansas. And I've done that all over the country and in a few places around the world. It's amazing. And the control that you have with a powered paraglider rivals any other type of aircraft out there. Because we have a course set out here that's called the Cloverleaf. There's a competition, and you fly figure eights around poles and touch a center stick. Our competitions in airplanes, they want to touch near lines. We touch on a frisbee. That's our target for the competition. The control is incredibly tight. And the fact that you can put your body basically in the anywhere of your imagination in 3D is truly an amazing way to fly. It's certainly a light wind sport for most people, especially in the beginning. And it does depend on location. For example, your basic favorite condition for most paramotor pilots is dead calm. We all like dead calm. We hate launching in dead calm because the difficulty in powered paragliding is in the launch. That is where the men are separated from the boys, those who can launch consistently, and that's where you spend your time, is handling the wing on the ground and being able to launch. Now, once you can do that and you can fly in calm weather, it's beautiful. It's magical. You just go wherever. You don't say, man, I'd like to fly near that tree. You say, man, I'd like to tap the branch. And then, I want to tap the leaf. You choose a leaf and you just come over and tap it and off you go. So light wind is ideal. Having said that, you can fly in up to 18 miles an hour. We were doing it yesterday. But now you need to know how to handle the wing in high wind. It's kind of like surfing in that the conditions that you can fly in go up dramatically as your skill improves. Whereas an airplane, it's not as big of a difference. A private pilot can probably handle a 20-mile-an-hour wind once he's certified. In a paraglider, you don't want to handle a 20-mile-an-hour wind unless you've built up to it slowly and you've gotten a lot better at it than you were at the beginning.
One thing Jeff said really stood out to me. You see it, and that's a direct quote. From a professional aviator, that's no small recommendation. So why don't we see what others have to say about these powered paragliders? Americans are known worldwide for our spirit of innovation. We see something we like and think of ways to make it better. Jeff Baumgartner loves powered paragliding, but thought the power rig could be made more portable, stronger, and less expensive. Everybody on the flight line recommended me to talk to him about his product.
This is the plans-built paramotor. I offer the plans for sale. The parts you can all buy from Aircraft Spruce, except for 8 machine parts that I offer also for support. These are the parts for the cage. Everything is bent with just a electrical conduit bender, a normal conduit bender you get from Ace Hardware or Menards or anything like that. All these parts are made from straight tubes you get from Aircraft Spruce. The whole machine is bolted together, there's no welding. We use AN bolts from Aircraft specifications. All totally geared towards ease of building and cost of material. The goal was to have a paramotor that the average guy could actually build in a reasonable amount of time. I ship out plans and sometimes within a week I'm getting pictures back of a completed machine, which is really satisfying for myself. Building a frame will save you maybe $500 off the total entry cost into the sport. The goal behind this was to be self-sufficient after you're in the sport. We're foot launched, we have slips and falls. The advantage to this one is if you damage something, you can repair it yourself. A lot of times right on site, right out here at the field. This harness is the APCO Comfort Bar harness, they call it. It's my favorite harness, that's why it's on my machine, and this is the one that's in the plans. I like the high hang points. I learned on high hang points. Most people tend to stick with what they learn on. Well, here we're hooking the paraglider in above your shoulder here. On the low hang point, you're hooking the paraglider in down below your shoulder, and the risers come up past you, or actually come through here. The high hang point is a little more stable feeling for the pilot. You don't get the rocking back and forth because most of the weight of your body and the machine are lower than the pivot point. This is the M25Y 2-stroke, 25 horsepower. They call it the Black Devil. Direct drive, there's no clutch on it. Very light engine, very good power to weight ratio, very good, very reliable engine. This is the netting. This is one version of the netting. All the accessories to the machine, the netting, the fuel tank, the engine, the harness, that's all comes with the plans. You get a list of suppliers and where to get everything to complete your paramotor if you build this frame. This is my portable netting for traveling with because it's quick and easy. It keeps the brake toggles. If you let go of the brake toggles in the paraglider, it keeps them from going into the prop. It's not really designed to keep body parts and whatnot out of the prop. This particular netting does not do a good job at that. You can build these hoop sections just as on the plans and just move them inward on the tubes here, and you have safety rings then, and that'll keep your hands and body parts out, your arms from going back too far. It's not generally a problem, but unfortunately it does happen in the sport. I took what I liked from other designs and tried my very best to incorporate it into something the average person could build without investing a lot in tools. Tried to make it as easy as possible to build and as less costly. My goal was to be self-sufficient as far as building myself a frame and keeping it maintained. And it just kind of expanded into people saw it, liked it, wanted to do it for themselves, and I do my best to help them out.
Jeff's a humble guy who has done a lot for the sport of powered paragliding. And since I was talking about innovation, and you caught a glimpse of it earlier, I just have to show you the supersized skateboard his buddy made.
What I'm doing right now, this instant, is I'm kiting. I'm checking the wing, checking my control of it, and just seeing what the air is doing up there. It gets too choppy sometimes to be able to do this properly. Practicing, because I'm brand new. I'm practicing keeping it up in the air and practicing my control of the wing. And it's really important on the ground when you're launching. Once you get it moving, get in the air, well, it pretty well takes care of itself. Me, I'm limited to about 8 knots. Now, some of these guys can go on up there because they're just real good. But I'm about 8 or 9 knots max and good smooth air. 10 or 12 is kind of the normal, I think, for most people. That's a guess.
As it would happen, I chanced to meet another professional aviator at Fort Smith, Jerry Cathcart. Jerry recently retired from a 43-year aviation career spent in military, airline, and corporate flying. He told me he has always flown airplanes for a living and has logged upwards of 27,000 hours.
It was just something I started as a very young person, actually as a teenager, and I loved it, and I pursued it as a career, and just continued. It looks very, very simple when these guys that's had some experience do it. It's a little more difficult than that. I understand wings and how airplane wings fly probably more than somebody that didn't have an aviation background. And that part's easy, but the launch, the techniques, how this thing works, the ground handling capabilities, it's much more involved than it actually looks like. And you need to go through a period of learning to be able to do this safely. And it's just a barrel of fun. I think it's probably also one of the safest forms of flight. Like anything that flies, it can hurt you if you don't use some good judgment, but I think it's probably one of the safest forms of flight that I've been able to investigate. If you like flying, if you endeavor to fly, go find out and see if it's for you, because if it is, it's a hoot. I flew Boeing 727s, Airbus A320s, and some pretty good sized airplanes. I flew Learjets, turboprop airplanes, a lot of old airplanes, back 40s, 50s vintage even, just little bitty single engine airplane. Got a wide variety of aircraft. This doesn't really compare to the aircraft flying in any way. This is not like flying an airplane. This is even a more, I think I'd have to say it's a purer, basic form of flight. You basically have to start from scratch, but once the wing is in the air, any pilot will basically understand the aerodynamics of how a wing works in the air. And I think would have a slight edge over somebody that didn't understand that. In some cases, a big edge. But you have to start from scratch because you have to launch it, and the launch is the difficult part, and you have to kite the wing to launch it. Working on the ground the way I was this morning, oh, it's mandatory to practice that. It takes a lot of practice, a long time to practice that to be able to fly that wing when you're getting ready to launch into the air. And those things are totally foreign in what you're physically doing to a pilot. So you have to learn all of that just like everybody else. The wing I have, maybe they make 7 or 8 different styles. Mine is one of the proven stable wings for somebody that's entry level. They make, the same manufacturer makes wings that are very, very similar to that, but they're high performance wings. That's people that want to do more maneuvers at altitude and than I'm wanting to do. Now that I'm retired, I decided to go ahead and give it a try, and I enjoy it thoroughly. It's a hoot. It's just an awful lot of fun. I really enjoy it. The camaraderie is as great as the sport, and a lot of great people in this sport. My big plans are to enjoy this sport to the max. You know, you can't take it with you. I'm no spring chicken. How long do I have? I don't know, but I'm going to try to enjoy myself right up to the bitter end. And I don't think it will come through powered paragliding.
When working on a documentary, I like to talk to people in the business community surrounding the project. I get their take on the strength of the market, trends, and other knowledge that only those earning a living providing services and products can know. In this case, the powered paraglider sport. This time I was doubly fortunate to meet Donald Brock, because not only do he and his partner operate a successful powered parachute business, but Donald has an extremely interesting background with parachutes. He spent 10 years with the U.S. Army, during which time he served with the 82nd Airborne, the Rangers, and the Special Forces. During his service to our country, Donald made 998 jumps. You will benefit from what he has to say.
I happened to see a guy flying around, and I was driving a Jeep, and I cut across the median, crossed the highway, and basically chased this guy down and asked him, hey, how can I do it? So from that day, it's been a love affair of mine. But I basically got into instructing just to, put the word out for the sport, and secondly, so I didn't have to fly by myself. People say, hey, I'm a pilot, so I should be able to learn the sport faster. That's not true. Being that we're so susceptible to the wind, we really have a different training regimen. Totally different. It's not even like parachuting. The only thing that is like parachuting, comparable to parachuting, is that we actually, when we get off the throttle, we have that downward sink and glide. And we actually turn with our toggles just like a parachutist would. But other than that, totally different. No, you can't even compare it. We could actually take off and launch from the same point of origin. That's what's so great about this. It's like most aircraft, you could take off and land in the same spot, but you can't do that in a parachute because all you do is descend. The wings are completely different from skydiving and paragliding because although you steer the wings the same way, turning left or turning right with your arms and your braking motions that you're doing to stop the wing, our wings are elliptical versus skydiving parachute, it's more rectangular. And of course, when you're in the military, you're in like the 82nd Airborne or the Ranger battalions, we use round parachutes. And the only design they have is to let you fall out of the sky safely and as fast as possible. Now with the parachutes, being that they're rectangular, you have a lot of glide, you have a lot of speed and a lot of momentum, but you can't get lift out of a parachute like that. And they're not designed for that, they're designed for descending. Whereas our wings are designed for climbing and descending. Our wings are not designed to take an opening shock, so you cannot jump out of an aircraft and have your wing deploy like a parachute. Powered paragliders actually have baffles in them. These baffles are designed to keep the leading edge open so that your wing is always pressurized. That's one. Now, rectangular parachutes also have that. They keep the leading edge open also. But ours are more stringent, they're more rigid than a parachute. Being that they have only one design, where we use ours to actually climb, and we're forcing all that air into climb. You don't want that leading edge to collapse or you can't keep that upward momentum. And with the round parachutes in the military, well, there is no leading edge, being that they're round, all you have is a hole in the back or maybe even a cutout in the back, so you can actually have the wing move in a certain direction easier than a 100% round parachute. The first thing I look at is their health. Can you actually put these units on your back? These units weigh anywhere from 45 to 85 pounds, and if you have blown out knees, you're not going to be able to carry the unit. There's also health issues. If you're taking medication, you need to know what kind of medication you're taking. Although we don't need a license to fly these, you definitely don't want to pass out or have a heart attack or have something happen to you. So you basically want to be in decent shape. You should be able to run. And the most awkward part of this sport is actually carrying this heavy equipment. Right now, with the way our laws are, in reality, we're not supposed to do a tandem flight. Now, if I can have a tandem flight, I could take an individual into the air and I could observe this individual or potential student to see exactly how he will react when we're in the air. Now, although he's not flying the equipment, you could basically tell and see how a person reacts by, is he grabbing the bars of the craft so hard that he's leaving indentations? Or is the guy looking around, or the female, looking around and saying, hey, this is cool, this is awesome. But if you don't have that opportunity to put a person in the air, you're shooting from the hip. You never know what a guy's gonna do once they get in the air. And that's the biggest problem with our sport. The hardest part on the ground is actually learning how to control your wing. To learn how to kite, we call it kiting. When you're learning how to do the sport, it zaps a lot of energy out of you. The wing, most people when you start working in this sport, they work against the wing. So until you learn how to kite the wing and use your body with the wing, you're really fighting a losing battle. So the hardest part on the ground is actually learning how to control the wing. And the more you learn how to control that wing, the safer you're going to be when you get in the air. You don't want to get in the air and watch your wing collapse and not know what to do. Now, if you're training on the ground and you get a lot of kiting experience, you will know that the wing can fold over and it'll pop back out. Recovery for most wings nowadays is 1 second. Kiting is, 80% of our training, so it is the most important part of our training. One thing that people don't realize is you have to be in the air. You need to have a distance between you and the ground. If you're 500 feet off the ground and your wing collapses, your wing will recover and you'll be safe. But if you're 200 feet from the ground and your wing collapses, you're going to have a problem. So when you get out and kite, you play with your wing, you understand what your wing does when you pull on the line, then you'll build the confidence and you'll realize what the wing is actually doing, and you'll have a safe piece of equipment. That's another way to gain confidence in your equipment. This is what we call the Adventure brand here. This is the Simonini, which can carry your heavier pilots. It's the Simonini 202, and it has quite a bit of thrust. So a bigger guy would actually fly this unit here. Then we have this Solo 210, and this could fly like a 160, 70, 80 pound guy, and it's a little lighter. So you could tell the sizes of these cages. One's bigger, one's smaller. So the big boys carry the bigger cages and the heavier equipment, and the littler guys would carry this here. These two frames will come apart in 4 sections. So this is a very transportable unit. It has brake points right here. You can basically take them off. You take the propeller off, you take the harness off, you stuff it in a nice little bag, you throw it in your trunk and you're on your way. These are dual electric start and pull start. This is too big, it doesn't have a pull start on it, so you have to rely 100% on the electric motor to get this thing started. This here is an old Fly product. This is the predecessor to the new Fly line that they have. This is probably 10 years old. It's perfect for a female or a small man. The reason for that is it probably weighs 45, maybe 50 pounds with gasoline. The difference between this unit and these units are that this unit actually has only 2 braking points in the cage. So you have a half a cage, whereas you got quarter cages that you could pack up, and the quarter cages are a little easier to store. This here has about 14 horsepower, so it's a little slower than this one, even though they carry the same engines. This has a tuned exhaust and a bigger head. I'll turn this one around. We have 2 different types of propellers. One's a carbon fiber, one's wood. A lot of people are wondering, why don't we make these propellers out of aluminum? Well, sometimes people get their fingers stuck in it, sometimes accidents happen. You need the propeller to break. We don't make propellers out of aluminum. We make them out of wood, and we make them out of carbon fiber. The major differences in these propellers basically is that the carbon fiber is quieter. They design it a little differently that we can't design with wood, so they don't make as much noise. The carbon fibers, they cost more, they are quieter, and they're a little stronger. Harder to repair though. The wooden propellers, they're a little noisier, not much. There's not really that much difference in the noise factor. The one thing that I like about the wooden propellers is this propeller is about $200. This propeller is about $450. The one thing you want to do when you're a student, you basically want to use the cheap propeller because everybody's going to get a bump, somebody's going to break a prop eventually, and the best part about it is the wooden propeller is relatively inexpensive. The most important thing about a wing that you're looking for is to have a wing that is sized correctly. Not all, and you fly the type of wing that your skill level projects. If you take a wing that is 10 years old, you're putting your life in your hands, or they're on your lines basically, because your lines is what keep you attached to the unit. And if your wing fails you or the lines break, you're in a whole lot of dangers. But what I would say the most important part is the experience you have, first of all, and second of all, the size of the wing. Does it match your size? If you have a large wing and you're a small profile man or female, that wing is going to cause you a lot of trouble in turbulent wind. It will cause your wing to collapse and you will get hurt. So you need to have a properly sized wing, and you need to have the wing for your experience. How do you find an instructor? You can look at frapper.com. There's tons of pilots that marked yourself on the map. You can contact some people, maybe in your area. You can look to see what kind of people are in your area that fly. And if there are pilots in your area, they can recommend you an instructor. Most pilots get trained by an instructor. There are a handful that don't do it, and they can give you the feedback that you really need. Because an instructor, as myself, what my selling technique is, hey, I'll let you talk to my students, or you can come out and watch. There are a lot of clubs out there. We all create our own clubs, like we have Texas Wind Riders. And then, of course, you got the USPPA.org. Probably one of the best organizations out there. If a pilot needs to basically know about the sport, that's probably the best place to go to find out information. But when it comes to the type of flying we do, it's all about freedom. That's as basic as you can get. You get the freedom to just go and do what you want. You get up in the air, you get to relax when the air is smooth. As the sun's coming down, nothing is more beautiful than sitting way up like a lawn chair and watching the sun crest the earth and disappear. And you just climb back up a little more and you watch the sun go back down again. I get off the ground and I just leave everything behind. So that's basically what this sport does for me.
One thing I observed while meeting with these powered paragliders was a general high level of competency. I was very happy to see this. You see, years ago, my first exposure to the sport of powered paragliding frankly didn't impress me very much. Back then, it seemed like the flyers had little control, and more than half the time, guys couldn't even get airborne, much less make a successful landing. But I now realize the deficiency I witnessed was not inherent in the sport, but rather was due to a lack of knowledge and training and technique. This ultralight sport has really come of age. If you are considering the powered paraglider galaxy of the ultralight universe, consider carefully what you have learned from these interviews. If you run into someone selling powered paragliders who says they can have you up and flying in a day, run the other way. I am convinced that the key to safety in this sport is preparation and training and belonging to a responsible organization like the USPPA. It is obvious to me that a prospective powered paraglider must spend many hours on the ground kiting before even considering taking to the air. And remember, you can always find the websites and other contact data regarding things discussed in this program on my website,